No, because I want to. Okay. So one thing or two things I want us to have up are the Great Gatsby reading guide and the chapter 4. I'm going to call it a lesson, but it's not really a lesson. It's more like an analysis help guide. Okay. Because the thing and what I have up for you right now is that same guide. So here's chapter 4. So the Great Gatsby chapter 4 analysis. We're going to focus on the symbols today. So I want to show you how much you can actually, so how much information you can actually generate from a symbol in a book if you just give it some time and make the connections. And I think ultimately I'll show you that it's not as difficult as it might seem. You might not know how to do it yet, but the process of doing it isn't incredibly difficult if you just kind of know where to look. Okay. So what I want us to do is I want us to take, obviously, like I said, I want us to have those two documents open, the reading guide and then the lesson that I have up here sharing with you. And I want us to turn to, let's see here, add the page, and then my bookmark fell out. Oops, it's not that. 76. Okay. So on page 76, I want you to start at I was a bridesmaid. So this is Jordan talking. This is the part where Jordan is telling Gatsby and Daisy's story to Nick. Okay. So start on the part where it says I was a bridesmaid. And just, you don't have to start there, but I do want you to notice something. So we're going to talk about symbols today. We're going to talk about the pearls and we're going to talk about the letter. So right above I was a bridesmaid, it tells you how much those pearls cost. Okay. Now remember, this is the 1920s, and those pearls cost $350,000. Okay. Now that would be an incredible amount today. You could basically triple that if you're looking at the money wise. Okay. It'd be over $1 million probably. All right. So I want you to keep that in mind because again, pearls are nice, but pearls that cost roughly $1 million, that's something else. Okay. Because we are going to use the symbols of the pearls in the letter to talk about the relationship of Tom and Daisy and Gatsby, but also relate it to themes and then ultimately what Fitzgerald thinks about the American dream. Okay. And I'm going to show you that just by talking about the details related to the symbols, so not dealing in any abstraction, just by talking about the details that Fitzgerald gives about these symbols, we're going to be able to move from talking about what's happening between the characters to what Fitzgerald thinks about the American dream. Okay? Because these characters are microcosms of the American dream. They are small but accurate representations of what Fitzgerald thinks. They're symbols too. So what happens to them physically is also what Fitzgerald is saying abstractly about these bigger ideas. That might not make sense right now. I think it will make sense by the time we're finished here. Okay. So I want you to read from I Was a Bridesmaid to Santa Barbara Hotel on page 77. So it's roughly a page. I want you to read a page. In 12 minutes, I want you to come back here and I'm going to do some mind mapping with you. You're going to talk in groups. Then we're going to share our ideas and then we'll be done. Okay. So 12 minutes. So at 11 minutes, 9:50, I'll see you back here. Okay. Aster, you have a question?
Yeah, so we're just reading from 76 in a couple pages.
Yep. And okay. What I want you to do is I want you to think about these things, okay? I want you to lay your ideas out. And, why don't we do this before so you can do it ahead of time? This will not take long, I guarantee you. So I'm going to open a Jamboard. If it opens. So come and join me on this Jamboard quick, because here's what I want you to do. I want you to make a map, a mind map. Green. Actually, no, it's too far over. Okay. So we'll do letter, pearls, and again, stuff in the middle is the similarities they have. The things on the outside are their differences. So I'll give you a similarity because we talked about it. They are white. Okay, pearls are white, the letter is white. That should mean something to us at this point in the book. Okay. White, at least superficially, represents purity. A question we can ask ourselves is, do both of these symbols represent purity? And if they don't, what do they represent? Okay. So what I want you to do here, and I'm just going to draw 3 because it's easy. There could be more, there could be less. What do you think these things represent? I want you to make a map before you come back and as you're reading. What do you think the letter represents? What do you think the pearls represent? Okay. Another thing, I ask you what do you think they represent so that we can actually start with being tangible. Okay. I want you to just write the details. Write the important details about the things. Okay. So when we talk about the pearls, what happens to them? There's a sequence of events related to the pearls. There's a sequence of events related to the letter. I want you to write those down, because if we look at that sequence, we're going to be able to make connections to bigger ideas. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that when we get back. Is everybody clear on that? That we're just writing down the details related to each symbol? Oh, I didn't share. Sorry, I didn't share the tab. That's my fault. I thought I did. So that's what I was doing while you were watching me look at the screen. It's really crude because it's a Jamboard and I'm writing with a pen on the computer. But ultimately, I just want us, on the outside here to write down the details about the letter, write down the details about the pearls. What happens with them? Okay. Because once you have those details, I'm going to show you how to take those details and move forward and move into bigger ideas. Okay. And that we can do that not by, some feat of magic, but just by talking about what's in front of us. Okay. So let's take 12 minutes again here. Let's come back at 10:05. All right. So make your mind map, do the reading. If you got to read it a few times, read it a few times. That's fine. Rereading is good reading. Okay. So I will see you back here at 10:05. All right, since there's only 5 of us, let's just kind of all do this together here. So we should have been writing down details, particularly just from that page, okay, or that page worth of material. Amethyst, what did you write down? So, like, take the pearls. What did you write down about the pearls?
It says that she kind of yanks the pearls off of her neck during the while I was reading, and it seemed like she was uncertain about whether or not she wanted to marry Tom.
Right,
and
because go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. It seemed like with the pearls, Tom was trying to buy her love with the $350,000.
Okay.
Pearls.
So we have that element. He's trying to buy her love. So she takes the pearls off, and what happens to them?
They scatter all over the place.
Right. And so let's put a pin in that right there. So at this point, they're scattered on the floor. Okay. Nevi, what did you write down about the letter?
Like what it like symbolized?
No, just the details. We don't have to worry about the symbolization yet. Or the
I
symbolizing.
couldn't find the page because I don't have the book. I was reading it off the online.
Okay, well, it's chapter 4. Have you ever done the word search? Okay, that would be a wise thing to do. So control F and you can just say pearls and it'll find it. Maya, what did you write down for the details?
She wouldn't let go of it, and she took it into the bath. It became a wet ball, and then it was coming to pieces like snow.
Okay. So we have what happens to the letter. She reads it. She takes off the pearls, throws them. She takes it into the bath. It gets wet, and one thing she does is she like clutches it really tightly, and then she puts it in the soap dish, and it falls apart like snow. Okay. Now, Amethyst, let's come back to the pearls. What happens after that with the pearls?
What happens with the pearls after?
Mhm.
I'm not sure.
It's in the paragraph. It's a just read. So again, we're looking for details here. Rereading is good reading. Ask her, what are you laughing at? Who are you talking to?
My friend, she was funny.
Okay. Okay, let's go to that paragraph right after the letter dissolves like snow, because it's in there. Okay. We gave her spirits of ammonia and put ice on her forehead. And now notice, this is right after the letter crumbles. So notice what happens once the letter falls apart, because that's when we get to what it symbolizes. This is going to be important. She didn't say another word. We gave her spirits of ammonia and put ice on her forehead and hooked her back into her dress. And half an hour later, when we walked out of the room, the pearls were around her neck and the incident was over. Next day at 5 o'clock, she married Tom Buchanan without so much as a shiver. Notice more cold imagery here. Okay. And started off on a 3-month trip to the South Seas. Okay. So the pearls are put back together. That's the final part of it. All right. So we have the letter is Daisy and Gatsby. We have the pearls are Daisy and Tom. Let's look at the letter here and use these details to talk about bigger ideas here. Okay. So based on what happens to the letter, asked her, what do you think that tells us about Gatsby and Daisy's relationship? Use the letter as your clues.
I think that's like really important to Daisy, and when she reads the letter, she realizes that Tom isn't the only guy in her life. Sorry, loud noise, but
No, he's not. Aster,
No,
come
like-
on here. Let's focus.
sorry. Like Tom is like, she really cares about Gatsby, but she knows that she's about to get married to Tom, and
Yes, but you're telling us what happens. I want you to tell us why. So what happens to Gatsby and Daisy's relationship based on the details? Be very specific, because now this is, before you say this, this is how we talk about symbols. Symbols are already abstractions. Taking a physical thing. Okay, Aster, we're in class. Come on now.
Yeah.
Okay.
oh, sorry.
You're taking a physical thing and using it to represent an abstract idea. So we already have an abstraction. We don't have to be abstract. We can just talk about it literally. If the letter is a symbol of their love, ask her what literally happens to the letter.
It disappears and like goes away.
Use his language. Use the author's language. Don't paraphrase here.
It crumples up. Wait, that's
It's in the middle of 76. Bottom middle.
She wouldn't let go of the letter. She took it into the tub with her and squeezed it up into a wet ball and only let me leave it in the soap dish when she saw that it was coming to pieces like snow. So it was
Oh.
disappearing, but she didn't want it to go away forever.
Right. She wouldn't let go of it until
Yeah.
she realizes that it's fallen apart.
Yeah.
So if that is a symbol of Daisy and Gatsby, then whatever is happening to the letter, we can just as easily talk about Gatsby, or we can use to talk about Gatsby. So what happens to her relationship with Gatsby? It falls apart like,
Snow.
okay. Notice what happens right after that. She sobers up.
Mm-hmm. And like
They
gets
take
her
care
life
of her.
together.
Puts the pearls back on, and they get married the next day.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, one of the reasons that Gatsby works so well as a short novel is that Fitzgerald's symbols are not simplistic. There's a lot going on with the symbols. There's different, and that's why using those mind maps will be helpful when you notice these things, because there's multiple ideas to talk about with each symbol. The pearls and the letter are both white. We know what white is supposed to represent in this book, but we also know that there's a theme of surface and reality. Are the pearls, because they're white, a symbol of purity? Does anybody think they're a symbol of purity? That Tom's love for Daisy is pure? No. What are the pearls? Daisy and actually just finish this statement for me. Type in your answer to this statement in the chat function. It's just, all you need is one word. Tom and Daisy's relationship is based on what? So Tom and Daisy's relationship is based on money, 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 wealth, same thing, Jen, Debbie, money. Yeah. So look what happens here. If something is supposed to represent purity and it actually represents money, there's words for that. Okay. One of the students in first hour pointed out that their relationship is literally based in corruption, in the appearance of purity and love, but is actually just based on money and convenience. Now let's flip it, because the letter is white too. Is the letter a representation of purity? It's a little more difficult, isn't it? Okay, it's okay that it's difficult. The answer doesn't have to jump out at you. Does anybody have like a feeling right now, like there's an answer, but they can't put words to it? Nobody has that feeling? Aster does?
I feel like Gatsby and Daisy's relationship is more than what Tom and Daisy's relationship is. So it's like more important. I don't know if it's like important.
Right. No, I agree. It's powerful.
Yeah.
But again, look at it too. You can get more into the details here. This is how we use symbols. The pearls are hard, right? They're hard. You can break pearls, but it's difficult. What is Gatsby and Daisy's relationship like? Is it hard and steadfast? No. What would be a word that would describe the relationship? Could we say pure and fragile? Okay. Notice how easily it dissolves, which is what it does. It just falls apart literally in her hands. Okay. So again, it's easy to just read past these things as singular events as part of a chain of a story. But when you see authors talking about details in in an extended fashion, like when they go on for a whole page about one thing, that's a really good clue or a really good indication that they're trying to tell us more than what's there on the surface. Okay. And that's why it's important when you're beginning to read literature, I think, to read ahead, quote unquote, and identify the themes and identify the symbols beforehand. It's not cheating, it's just preparing yourself. Okay. We know it's a symbol because we see these symbolic things. We see the color white. We see, once again, exteriors and interiors, surface and reality. And we can take this further. If Tom and Daisy, and then Daisy and Gatsby, are representations of the American dream, what is the American dream to Fitzgerald? And if that question doesn't, if the answer to that question doesn't come up right now, you don't have to go any further. You just have to look at what you've already said. Okay. So answer this question for me, same way we just did. What is the American dream to Fitzgerald? F. Scott Fitzgerald believes that the American dream is what? Just start there. You can elaborate on it more later, but just start there. F. Scott Fitzgerald believes that the American dream is this. Type your answer into the chat. So again, we can elaborate on that more, but you want answers to these type of things. When you go to chapter 5 and you look at the part where Gatsby and Daisy are actually in his house for the first time, the part that I point out, just like I point out the part about the letter in chapter 4, I point out in chapter 5 that once Gatsby has Daisy, his list of enchanted objects diminishes by 1. It's a strange passage because that green light that had meant so much to him is now not a symbol anymore. It's a real thing. Okay. All right, we're gonna have to cut it out. But I want you to keep these things in mind. You can do the same thing we did today in every chapter. Okay, there are symbols that Fitzgerald wants you to engage with, and they're complex symbols. We can look at the details around them. We can try to connect them to themes, which is what we'll be doing as the weeks go. And ultimately, we want to come to a conclusion. What does Fitzgerald think about the American dream? And how do we use the themes to talk about it? Is the American dream real on the surface and hollow in the middle? Is it pure on the outside and corrupt on the inside like Daisy? Or is it like Gatsby? Okay, we don't have a straight answer to that. It can be all of it. And so balancing this takes a lot of thinking and it takes a lot of work, but I think the work, when you do it, doesn't even seem like work because these are questions that are functional and meaningful in our lives, like the price of dreams. Is Gatsby delusional? Like, as you read, think about that. I think there's an argument to be made that he's delusional. But either way, just keep reading and just, again, try to engage with these things like we did today. Okay, you don't have to do it with every single word, but when you notice that Fitzgerald's spending a lot of time on something, that's probably a clue that he's trying to show you something that's there and that's more than just limited. Okay? All right. So I will see you on Monday. Okay, unless you have a question for me tomorrow, I'll see you on Monday. All right. Adios.
Hey, really quick